Recording. So let me put this box away and then we'll share screen. And there you are, and there where my email is, and I can get rid of that because we don't need that either.
Did you ever send me the rubric over?
I thought I did.
My email?
Yes. Yeah. That was
You maybe want to try sending it again because I don't see it in my inbox. I don't know if I can.
yeah, rachelray09gmail.com. Is that the right one?
It is? I just don't see.
Said it's sent. I can send again. Let me. Is it in your junk mail?
Check.
Junk mail folders love me.
Yeah, I did. It's in my junk mail. That's so weird because everything else is there. So.
You know. And
Jot. I was just grab piece of paper or something. I can write all this down for now.
so in deference to those who have joined us, that would be Rebecca. Michael Catone was in for about like 45 seconds and then left.
Sad.
Maybe he'll come back. Hope he comes back.
Did you make it optional for students to tune in?
I did, just with the scheduling and whatnot. I'm recording this, obviously, but yeah, it's the best, the least imperfect way I could do it was just to kind of, make it optional for students, and then we'll record it. If this was a real class, we would bring whoever was judged in person and have a fabulous conversation. Still have a fabulous conversation with audio distortions and whatnot. So here is the portfolio.
Ooh.
This is from Rebecca Slazak, or as her friends call her, Rebecca. Rebecca. That's Becca's forehead right there. We'll mute.
Just walk a mile in my shoes.
That's very strange. The last photo in the series is supposed to go. It's magnets. It's supposed to be in the first group, but whatever. It is what it is.
I figured it was with another story just because it was thrown at the end.
Oh,
So in
it's
total,
because
you
it's a
guys have
different it's a different file name.
I see. That's my error. It's okay.
Where's it go? Goes with the green. Can put it up there. Will it
Yeah.
let me?
let's do that.
Arrangement. Ah, never mind.
Arrangement always makes it scarier.
Yeah.
That's the only way to move them around, I think, unless you rename it.
Let's see. Should be magnets.
Or 13. There's no 13.
Here, you're missing a 13.
Yeah. I think it's supposed to be 13. But that's my error. I'm so sorry. Gosh darn it.
There's 13. So there, fixed. So, all right. Any discussions, questions?
So I
This
would,
is your
I guess, just maybe break down what I'm looking at because there's 3 different stories or 4 different projects. I think there's 4.
Yeah.
I feel like just based on the fact that I know you, I know that this first project is on your family, right?
Yeah. So this is the one that we've done while we've been in isolation with like coronavirus. So I was trying to show like relationships. At first I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, blah blah blah. Then I noticed relationships and pairings in my work. So I was like, oh, maybe that would work. But then like talking to Ben Allen, he was like, maybe it's more about this connection and disconnection between like things. And so that's what I was kind of like trying to illustrate through the project of like people being connected with like my grandparents kissing or the 2 kids rollerblading or like family pizza night or the 2 boys at the end, or maybe it's like disconnection, like walking through the woods or sitting alone like by a flooded area or sitting in the dining room and not really talking, you're both doing your own thing, or even like the flowers in the greenhouse, like the separation between the wall and you and the flowers. So that was kind of what I was trying to go for.
Yeah, I think it definitely translates very well. I like the way that you've chosen to combine moments of isolation with moments of relationships and interaction. And I think it really reads really well. And you have a really good balance between details or just really intimate photographs or overalls to kind of give me a sense of place or a sense of environment, which I really like. I really like the flower picture just because I've seen that one before. Um, is there motion blur at all, or is it just the way that the wall? Is there like precipitation? How did you?
Yeah, so this one is just, it's not as motion blurred as the one I posted on Instagram because I was trying to save this image because I like it better. But it's just like the lines going through is literally the greenhouse like wall. So
I like it a lot, and I really like the mushroom hunting one because it feels like I feel like I'm moving alongside one of these relatives or whoever it is that's stepping onto the scene or stepping away from the frame. I really do like how you shot that one too. Um, as far as the black and white story, I was wondering what that one was about as well.
So there's 2 separate ones. The first one was like our photo column. So we had to do like a theme. So I did like the theme of growing up or growing, just like changing, like change. So like obviously you change like when you being baptized, when you celebrate a birthday, like with technology, like relationships have changed. And then just like this dog has been in our family for like 15 years. It's my cousin. And then like leaving or like moving on. And then the next one is about these thrillbillies who do derby, but they're just like working on their cars. Like their derby season isn't until like the summer, so I couldn't photograph it, but they just like work on their cars and stuff to bang them up and have fun. They call themselves like thrillbillies. It's just kind of interesting.
Why did you decide to put those in black and white versus keep it in color?
Um, the tones in the garage were just like crazy. Like I just wanted something that was really unified, and if I had it in color, I felt it wouldn't have been as unified as a story.
Were the Thrillbillies in Muncie, or is that also from where
They're in Muncie. Yeah, they're in Muncie.
and then the last is all of the last that's in color for that one, Walk a Mile in My Shoes?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I remember covering that too. It's a tough, like I know we've had those discussions. It's a tough thing to be able to get creative in a way that's, you have to shoot these overalls. You have to make sure that you're showing the mass of people and making sure that you're communicating what's going on at this event, which I feel like you've done very well. And again, you found details, you found moments within the overall scenes that everybody sees when people are just marching down the street. You still have interactions. I think this frame was a little messy for me in terms of just like what the focal point is. And that's just, again, just like a minor critique of like an overall scene, or what your selects are. I'm not sure this one was necessary, um, just because again it's just a little chaotic. Like you kind of got like two moments, half moments of the guy passing a can. I can't see his face. Everybody else is kind of looking off or looking just kind of blank into the crowd. So I would like to see like a more moment driven type of interaction within the crowd if that's what you were going for. Um, Other than that, I mean, I feel like overall, I think you really do have a really good eye for being able to see details and taking moments and still finding a way to make sure that there's balance in the life, there's balance in the interaction that's taking place. Like the theme of, waiting for this decisive moment. Sometimes we're not always granted that, especially if we're on deadline or if this is just all an event that's happening in the same day. You really have to kind of make sure that you're getting as much as you can, but being able to see it differently or as uniquely as possible. It's kind of a hard thing to balance when you're in the moment, trying to just do what you can, see the things that you want to see, um, and also play. I know we've talked about this too, um, but I think in general, I mean, I really like the personal project of your family. I think that's obviously the more powerful one that stands out to me. I think just because it is more personal, it's really intimate, and you've been able to make really phenomenal work in the time that you've had off out of school, away, from everything and back home. So, and you're going to continue this, right? Is that the goal? Mhm. Yeah, I really like that you've been seeing what's been going on in your own family. Um, and I do like the thought that goes behind these two black and white series of talking about growth and how to kind of show that, because that's not something I guess you like visually associate with photos or imagery. It's not like you're actively thinking about how to show that. So I think you did a really good job, um, keying in on a lot of those moments that would associate, with this concept of growth or achievement or change, transition, and all of those good things. That's something that I feel like you can continue to try to see in every assignment or every kind of shoot that you end up having in the future. Um, I think my favorite photo out of the Thrillbillies would definitely be that last frame, because it's really tight. It's a really, really nice moment. It's different from all the other frames, and it kind of gives me more insight, I think, into who these people are. The other ones, I think, again, like I had in my head, they're mechanics, or they're doing something. They're this band of people that work together. So I think you do a good job of showcasing that as well. Seeing what's probably a very similar scene in a different way. I guess I would have liked to see more done with that portrait of him too. I don't know this guy's name. But I guess for me again, like my idea of a portrait, I think environmental portrait would have been more fun to get this guy to still kind of show me his environment with it instead of having a really tight image of him. It's good. It's a nice way to be able to see, who he is as a person. But I feel like I would have liked to be more work done with that portrait. But I think overall there is some kind of harmony. I think, and again, the way that you're shooting, you're finding these intimate, quiet moments, quiet scenes. So yeah, I think overall, especially again, given what's been going on this semester, you've been able to work with with the card that you've been dealt. So yeah, I just think keep pushing the personal project, which I know you're already planning on doing, but I'm really excited to see how that evolves over time too. I think that's something that will help teach you, like we've talked about. It'll teach you a lot just about how to see moments and how to see things differently, even with your own family. So yeah, I feel like that's good.
Thank you.
I don't believe I can add anything else to that. I really see so much insight, so much great storytelling in this selection of work. So I think it's really effective. It's incredibly cohesive storytelling to me. If there's all of it, as we would expect in a 400 level class, it's very cohesive. It really pulls together. It's very unified. Again, with developing photographers, you don't always see that. But certainly, Becca is farther along than many, and again, not unusual for a 400 level class.
Is there anything that stands out to you as like kind of a nice single or something that maybe like I could throw in my like online portfolio that I show editors? Like anything that really stands out or anything that you think is strong enough to like be in that selection? Because I don't know.
Well, again, I'd go back to this one. This was the one that really could be almost like a signature photo. And it was really speaking to me. Others, things like that. I think that's effective.
I would say that.
And this, again, to me, and sure enough, I'm being animated toward your black and white conversions. I don't think that's because of a bias. It just really, they really are very self-evident. This one again, maybe.
I really like that frame. If you go back to that third frame right there at the first story, because those are bruises. Is that what you're trying to show?
They're hickeys, but yeah. And I did not do that. That's my brother. And it's at the beginning of quarantine. Yeah, I about got killed for taking these photos though. I kind of said like I'm gonna do it for my class. I won't show another soul, and that was the only way I got that image. So.
I can imagine that one going in a portfolio as well, just because it is again like I love the soft light. I love the tender moment, but that might not be, I guess, the case then for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree. I think that the Billy's photo of him kissing the young girl or daughter or whoever, and then the baptism photo within that series, those are both really strong. I think either one of those could hold up in a portfolio.
This one's especially speaking to me now, but I'm hungry. The one thing I want to do this summer is learn how to make really good pretzels.
Look really good.
Okay.
So,
Cool. Thank you.
Work.
Yeah, good job, Becca.
Thanks.
And the scoring, Martin, is it out of like a 10 or what? How's your scoring process go?
No, it's 1 through 50. 1 through 50.
Okay.
So just go ahead and go down the list. Do you have either earbuds or some like earphones or a mic?
Me?
Yeah, I don't know if you have access to
Yeah,
either have earphones.
I can plug in my headphones so you can hear me better.
Yeah, actually, because I think sometimes, and I found this out surprisingly when I listened to my own recording from last night, I was using the laptop microphone and it was really choppy. It wasn't good audio.
Okay.
Hopefully you're hearing me better now.
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay, I'm gonna go grab my headphones then, and then hopefully the mic will work better.
Okay. Yes, that works. And you won't watch me watch this slideshow anymore. Hi. This is for her photo column, which was, I think, kind of stressing people's personal sense of fashion.
Gotcha. I figured it had something to do with fashion or clothes identity, stuff like that. So.
Many of the students were also taking my illustration class, including Rebecca.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the video. Let's see if I can do this in a way that playing it across WebEx isn't going to suck. Sometimes it doesn't work very well across WebEx. Hopefully it will. Let's try it. This is like, so last time I looked at one of her videos, it was 3 point something gigs. Now it's 4.6 gigs. I actually got bigger. I had to talk to her about H.264 presets. So, not that this isn't worth absolutely every 1 and 0 of those 4.5 gigabytes, but all right, so let's go ahead and play this. Actually, I'm going to take out my earphones so you can hear what may or may not be good audio.
Okay.
It's probably good audio. It's just you're not going to hear it as good audio playing through WebEx, but we will see. Here goes.
Yeah, I'm not really getting the audio very much.
The audio actually is very faint.
Okay.
Probably hear the birds better.
I can.
Ben Sound looks like a name. Hey, Ben. This is my friend Ben Sound.
Ben Sound, the royalty-free music that we love.
Yes. So, um, so there it all is.
That's it? Okay.
Mhm.
So I guess, so the first project that's been submitted is pretty much in direct correlation with the video, I would say, based on what I guess it's focusing on, which is her at home, or the video, I guess, is more the transition from leaving Ball State to going back home, which I appreciate. I think is a good concept for a video, especially because it looked a lot of it was her in the video, which I'm sure wasn't easy to have to set up that and then film yourself. And that's something that's, I guess, a more vulnerable way to be able to approach a video rather than being behind the camera and witnessing all of these moments unfold before you. So I will give Brittany kudos, I think, for incorporating herself so much in these photos and this video to try to really tell her own personal story of isolation and journey through all of this. So I do think that that is a really great idea. I think what I would have liked to see was just more visual variety, especially in the stills, because I am pretty much just seeing everybody at the dinner table, which is a great moment to capture. And I think that a lot of the times when we think about what we're looking to shoot, we have to kind of shoot the same thing over and over again and think that that's sufficient, but sometimes it just takes finding one really strong moment within that scene, and then that's all you really need to be able to tell the story of your family getting together to have dinner, or what that, that dinner time means to you and your family. So to be able to communicate that, I think would have been more well done had it just been in one frame, and then to supplement the other things that you're doing as a family. Or I would like to be able to see what your parents are doing when they're not sitting at the dinner table, or it looks like you guys have great interactions or great moments, shooting off guns at, the backyard or wherever it is that you guys are doing that. So those are the kinds of things I wish I could have seen more of. So I do think that overall I am asking, I'm kind of wondering, I want more. I want to be able to see more than what I've been given. So I think for Brittany, something that she can keep in mind is to kind of just push a little bit, just I think she's got a great idea in terms of the concept and the way she wanted to communicate this story of isolation, and handle her time back home. I think it's great again that you're turning the camera on yourself and including yourself within these scenes and these moments. I think that that's a really great thing, and to keep that in mind as well, just throughout, your future career and whatever it is that you decide to continue to tell stories of. It's always great to somehow incorporate yourself and what that looks like if you're a part of the story. And in this case, that would make sense. I do like the portrait series. I think that that was a really good idea, and I know lighting is always a tricky thing, especially in the studio. Um, so I do like the concept behind, expressing yourself, expressing your passion. Um, I think again, just I think in the future, something to look for is just really intimate moments with the camera, not so much people performing for the camera, posing for the camera, like even in the video, I know I saw your mom or whoever it was, posing with the Lysol spray or posing at the empty fridge. And that stuff is, those are moments that you're experiencing, but not necessarily, I don't think, worthy of capturing on camera all the time, or you want to be able to convey those kinds of things in a really moment driven way versus a more posed or just kind of comical, amicable way, or animated way, not amicable. But I think, again, given the situation, it's just a good idea that you're conceptualizing these things and challenging yourself to look within your own family, to look within yourself, to be able to tell a story. I think that's something that we all struggle with is, it's a lot easier to bear witness to moments that are happening around us. But when we're a part of those, or when there's something that's happening to us, that, our story kind of becomes embellished with the rest of the world's story. That's definitely an interesting concept that we're all kind of, I think, trying to navigate as storytellers. So, um, yeah, I just think that, in terms of what to look for in the future, just really try to find more variety in what you're shooting. Push yourself to find more scenes, more moments, and, go outside of your comfort zone of what you might deem worthy of photographing. Just take your camera on a walk with you, or have your camera with you at a different time of day, and just kind of see what that inspires you to create. So yeah.
So for the final portfolio, we left the first project. There's like a 2-week project that we do as project one, just to kind of start a semester project. I left that optional for students. So what we have here is project 2, which is find something positive going on. Project 3 is a photo column, which this was. And she shot project 3 rather late in the semester. I went ahead and allowed that, given the nature of the semester. And this was finding something positive, and she was stuck because she did not want it to be redundant to the last thing, which you just watched. She chose to do the passion project as a video rather than stills. So that's actually a project unto itself, that last video. This was, we were just talking, and I'm like, well, what's kind of positive here? And ultimately we turned the conversation to, our family and our people, our family and loved ones are actually get to have dinner together like we haven't done. So I think your criticisms are on point for, ways to kick it up a notch. Try to find other pictures of just people sitting at dinner, shot so really straight on. Look for the other moments that are maybe less planned and more spontaneous. I think that would help her with this. And yeah, she's doing great with pose shots, or excuse me, unposed shots, candid images. I think, yeah, we would like to see more of those than just the pose shots.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Is there anything else that you want to add?
I don't think so. I feel like that's I think all I can speak to for her portfolio. But again, kudos. I think the video is a really nice touch. So
It really is. And when we looked at it earlier, I pointed out some places where it could be edited, cut a little bit, some parts of it, holding on to the images for maybe a little bit too long. If that was cut a little bit, it wouldn't bleed. But it's especially that last scene, and even that could have been brought in a little bit, but it's impossible to be in a bad mood and watch that video. It really, it's pretty damn fun. I may just watch it again sometime later just to put me in a good mood.
no, it definitely had a high quality of storytelling, I think, within the video. So
One thing I didn't say is that, I've never used it. I've used it in Final Cut. I've not used it in Premiere. But having the camera mounted on the cart, there was a lot of camera shake, like a little bit too much. There are filters and algorithms that you can use in Premiere. Again, I have not used them in Premiere. I have used them in Final Cut. That'll take that shake out. It really cuts down on it. That might be something worth looking at. I could go either way on it. It was the camera shake wasn't. It was noticeable, but not unjustified.
I was gonna say, I think it has a place to be a little bit more of a chaotic motion for that scene, particularly just because, again, I mean, it was it's probably hard to get still video of that anyway. But
Yeah.
I mean, in general, it was hard for me to see, be able to see it actually played throughout. It was a little choppy just in general because we're screen sharing, so I couldn't actually get like a true sense of how shaky or
Sure.
how disjointed it was. But I do think, I mean, in general, like minimizing camera shake is never a bad thing. I mean, to always be able to compare what it would look like before and after you add that effect in is always a good thing to weigh in when you're trying to, again, what the intention is of what that frame or what that video is meaning to tell and visually show people. So that's just always something to keep in mind for sure.
The pacing of the video aside, I do appreciate her choices in editing with the way the entire video transitioned from black and white at school and a certain sense of uncertainty, I think, and then moving into home, where it was almost like Wizard of Oz, where you walk into Oz and everything's color, you know.
That's true. That is true.
Really
Yeah.
effective. So, yeah, nice work, Brittany.
Yeah, good job, Brittany.
Congratulations, as I like to say. Brittany graduated yesterday, so
That's wild.
as did Michael. So let's no, Katie Ams is next. Katie
Katie
emailed
Ames.
us.
Okay.
Katie can't be on the roster, but Katie.
It looks like it's Katie on the roster, so that's good.
Okay.
Found her. Okay.
And go with the slideshow. I'm going to do all my critiques with the bird soundtrack running in the background. It's actually appropriate for these pictures.
It really is.
She said she worked this scene for like half an hour
It's a good shot.
to get that damn drop. These. Be Here Now. What would we do without Be Here
I was
Now?
gonna say that I knew it was Be Here Now just by looking at it.
Yeah. And I hope they don't close, but I heard that they might.
No. What would Ball State do without Be Here Now? I can't even think about that.
I hadn't even gone there yet. Can't close.
Really? Not once?
Not once. No.
How?
They have a life.
That's fair.
Okay, so no video, I don't think, with this. Make sure. Yep, nope, 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 yep. Okay, so
Okay, we're looking at all of it.
see is what we get.
Okay. Um, I guess my immediate thoughts, there are two images specifically that I really like out of this whole portfolio. So I guess I can start with talking about those. And they're both in that black and white series at the end. So this first image that's coming up of the girl with the wind in her hair, I think that to me is the most moment driven, just kind of like in the moment, being able to really capture just an authentic frame out of everything that I've seen in this portfolio. I feel like that's something that's showing me emotion. It's giving me a sense of place. It's giving me a sense of personality. Um, which in general I think is one of those things that I'm getting in terms of how Katie is shooting and she's seeing these moments, but in terms of the angle in which that she's presenting some of these moments, I wish I would have been able to get a little bit tighter on faces to really be able to see emotion or really be able to see body language and mood more? Had she just kind of been not on the side of somebody, or, taking this picture from the side of what the moment is happening, and rather, shoot right in front or get down below or try to get a little closer. So I think that's kind of the main thing that I've noticed in this portfolio is like, this is something that I feel like is true to what we always try to showcase. We try to evoke emotion, we try to evoke mood, we try to have some kind of personality within a frame. So this feels really fluid to me. This photo, and then the other photo that I was wanting to talk about is the third to last one. The TV is on, and I don't know if she's at home or who this is in the picture, obviously, but I just really like the scene. Not just for the moment itself in terms of, the nails are being done or toenails are being done. You don't know who exactly is, feet those belong to, but it's nice because my eyes being led through the frame. But even just the detail of what's on the screen, it's just been a crazy day. I love that so
It's
much.
great.
Yeah. I think that's a very good storytelling image to me. And so I feel like between those two images that I pointed out, those I feel like are things that Katie can channel in the future on, future assignments or when she's covering things. Those are, I think, kinds of photos that maybe you weren't even thinking about it, or maybe you were, but either way it works. So yeah, I really like this image. I think that is just super quirky. It all works together. It leads my eye through the entire frame to be able to read that caption on the screen and then see what's been going on, and kind of knowing again what the semester's been like for you guys in terms of isolation. I get all that. So this is a really, really good storytelling image to me. I would have liked to see more photos like this that kind of embody that sense of place, sense of emotion. But I think in general, again, you're working with what you've been given throughout the semester. And I know Be Here Now is always a great place to practice lighting, to practice kind of getting different things. So I feel like those shots, were exposed fairly well. Because I know lighting can be really crazy. I know you weren't using a flash, so you're using natural light, which is always tough when you don't have a lot of light to work with. And yeah, that water droplet, that picture is just, it's nice to know that you've taken the time to be able to really get that detail. Again, that's something that when you think about when we take pictures, again, it feels so fleeting sometimes. It feels like we just have to be able to just like take 17 million pictures right in one frame or right in one scene and then see what turns out the best. But this, I can tell, you took your time, you were patient with it. And it was successful. I think it's unique. It's something that's different. It stands out than the rest of the frames in your portfolio. I kind of want to see what it looks like in color, just because again, I don't know had I seen it in color, what I'd be looking at. Maybe give me more of a hint as to, where this water is falling from. I think I could kind of tell it's a rock. But just to maybe have it in color would just give me that extra sense of, really being able to put that together, of knowing this is a water droplet, it's coming down from, a canyon, a rock, or what have you. But that's just a minor thing. I know, again, black and white is kind of we go back and forth in photo about, why I think she put black and white, what that shows, why it's different from color. But yeah, Martin, what do you think?
I think the metadata tells a little bit of the story. Maybe the light wasn't awesome, and she's
Okay.
running the ISO up to 6400 here.
Uh-huh.
Aperture 5.6 at, depending on what 300 millimeters she has. That's like, it might be wide open or almost wide open.
Mm-hmm.
1/2000th of a second is about what you need to kind of get that frozen like that. So, it sounds like she's kind of trying to problem solve and making that trade-off to try to capture this frame at a fast shutter speed with a hellishly high ISO that, may or may not look good in color.
That's true.
So it's I kind of see what she's not here to kind of talk it through, but just looking at the metadata, maybe that's what's going on. I don't know if she had a 300.28 or a 300.56, probably the latter. And hand holding at 300 on that dripping water had to be quite a task.
Yeah.
Of course, she's a great athlete, so I'm sure that she could nail it. So, and she did. So, I made, I indulged a lot of dog pictures this year, and I am a great guy for dog pictures myself, as you know. Child is having a good time over here.
She's
Um,
just chilling.
but yeah, I may do a moratorium on dog pictures next semester, just to kind of get us back to planet Earth here. Um, I think it holds together really well, and I can't say enough that we talked about her amazing growth, originally in the last year or two, but certainly throughout the semester. You can literally see it in the selection of pictures, picture by picture, as the semester goes through, and so much more sophisticated in week 15 than even in the earlier weeks of the semester. So um, very, very, very happy, and I hope you are, Katie. Nice work.
Yeah, good job, Katie. I would agree. I think if this was a start to finish portfolio in terms of looking at the beginning of the semester to the end, then I definitely see growth as well. So that's I think ultimately when you're putting these things together, you want to be able to see what's holding together and how you're being able to change and shift your perspective and storytelling. So kudos to you.
Next is Kyle Crawford.
I know him. I know Kyle.
Kyle, it's Kyle time.
Yeah, I'm excited to see his stuff.
I think he did include his project one for this. And let me make sure, did he put in, yeah, he does have his video in a different, so we're going to see his stills and then go to his video.
Okay.
Let the stills come first. Slideshow time. Please don't log me out of the meeting. This is a Quidditch team.
Ah, yes, the good old Quidditch team.
Catherine played Quidditch. It's how she injured her ankle, actually.
Oh, really?
BSU, I guess, had a really good team.
Bananas. That's 8 dogs now.
Okay. And so Kyle has a lot of narration through this video. I hope it comes through okay. I could maybe send you a copy too. That would even work.
Yeah, let's play it, and then if it doesn't translate as well, maybe you can try sending it over to me so I can watch it because I'd like to be able to hear obviously all of it. I couldn't hear the last one very well, so I
Brittany
can
had her
do.
audio turned way down on that. I don't get the impression he did that. I don't remember that he did that on this one.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
We'll still get the birds though.
My final week on Ball State University's campus came way sooner than I ever expected it. Students started packing up and leaving before classes even went e-learning. Those that did stay had about a week of wandering around a mostly empty campus. We didn't have to wait long to hear that the university was increasing its response by closing on-campus housing and non-essential facilities by March 29th. To this day, I still miss my time living on campus. My room this year and my floor was the best I've ever had. Yet I moved back home also to find new opportunities where I could still do work and have more access to covering the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm a volunteer with Midwest Food Bank in Indianapolis, and for the past month I've gone out and photographed their amazing work helping feed those in need during this pandemic. It's been incredibly stressful, but you are always constantly reminded that you're helping those who need it the most right now. My time away from covering the pandemic has been focused on spending time with my family and my cat, especially my cat, as often as possible. I also found a lot of peace by finding time to be out in nature. I'll never forget the night where I went out and saw a beautiful supermoon during this pandemic. It was a weird experience, since at that moment I forgot about everything else that was going on. Space really doesn't care about this pandemic, and I think that's totally fine. The weather also doesn't tend to care about this pandemic either. In the evening of April 8th, most of central Indiana was hit by a squall line of thunderstorms that brought severe weather and conditions favorable for tornadoes. Fortunately, my community wasn't severely damaged. However, the threat was very real, and not too many days later, I heard the news of tornadoes devastating several communities and killing over 30 people in the states of the Southeast. I can't begin to imagine what it must be like for those communities right now. Though when the weather didn't pose a threat, I often tried to visit the parks. I even got a chance to see this guy controlling 3 kites all by himself in a performance-like style. However, parks still have a very visible impact from COVID-19 right now. People were coming in waves, also trying to find an escape from the stresses of the pandemic. Social distancing was still strongly encouraged, and for the most part, people kept their distance from each other, even sometimes not responding to a friendly hello from someone else as they passed one another on the trails. Playgrounds and nature centers were the only truly closed locations at most parks, due to the potential contamination threats they posed. Among all the negatives from this pandemic, there have also been awesome moments of hope and positivity. I've seen the stories in the news about people finding ways to celebrate important life events despite the isolation of social distancing. But it didn't really hit me how great these could feel until I got to see a surprise drive-by birthday party to celebrate my neighbor, Sherry Tater, and her 50th birthday. I know seeing this event and being a part of it did help me start to see more positives right now. I've been in a mindset since the start of the statewide lockdown, where I felt that to make an impact through my work, I needed to document the struggles. I'm not the first to say this, but I know my fellow peers and professionals out there are dealing with this mindset too. Looking back, this quarantine has felt like it's gone on forever. In some ways, it has gone on too long for my family financially. Everyone except my mom has a part-time job to help put food on the table and even keep up with the bills. Graduation is closer for me than it's ever been. I was set for a study abroad trip to Japan for the Tokyo 2020 Summer Olympics, and I had a great chance for a post-grad job in public affairs with the U.S. Army. These are sacrifices I never would have expected, but this is my new normal, at least for now.
You able to hear that?
I did. I was able to hear it perfectly, so that one went well. Yes. I think kudos to Kyle for making sure he had good audio too. So,
Yep.
no, I think the video really helps solidify a lot of what these still images are that I was seeing because I know in general, when you've asked your students to photograph what life has been like in isolation, obviously it's going to look a little bit different for everybody.
Mhm.
But I feel like what was unique about Kyle's perspective was how personal he made it, but how it's touched on how it's kind of connecting himself to this collective sense of isolation, this collective struggle that we're all facing. So I really appreciate, these empty photos of, campus, the theater and the dorm, the single person just walking by the bell tower to show kind of again how campus has become a lot more empty. The supermoon photo is really, really cool. I've yet to really take a really cool nighttime or moon photo, and I know that I've seen so many good ones, but I love the framing in this one in particular. I mean, just the way that you can tell Kyle was intentional about finding a way to be able to showcase and photograph the moon, but still have other elements within the frame to help um, add that extra layer and element to it. So I think that was really, really well done. So um, that was one of my favorite images that stuck out to me just as something he did while he was in isolation. I think the video for me, again, the narration was really insightful. I think the only critique I'd really have was there were parts where I wish his audio would have matched up a little bit better to the imagery, in terms of we see that one shot of the Midwest Food Bank building, which is a great lead or a great scene setter, but he, went on for a little bit about his work with the food bank, how it's been exhausting and how it's, it's been a lot of work or I would have liked to be able to see that. It seems like there's other images throughout his singles that would have spoke better to that, to be able to visually help me kind of connect what he was saying to what I want to be able to see. So that's something to keep in mind is again, I know that's something with video, we always try to be conscious of how our audio and our visuals are matching up, how they're syncing up. So I
I
think
think
that
there was a I think on the university's part, and well, specifically the department's part, and maybe the college, there was some trepidation about any student leaving quarantine to go work directly, and then should that be assignment work? Um, I could have gone either way on it, especially if this was documenting the life that he would be doing, whether or not he was documenting it. Kyle, I think, was probably trying to honor some of the feedback he was getting from the administration
sure.
and other professors about this. So that's to try to explain his problem solving in the absence of him being here. I'm guessing that's kind of where he was struggling. I think a little bit. I
Sure.
agree.
Yeah.
That feels like a hole. Maybe there's things that maybe putting on the mask and putting on the gloves or whatever his protective suit, whatever he has to wear or use to work in that environment. Maybe there were kind of ways to around that that he could kind of speak to that rather than just a headshot of the building. Yeah, it felt like you held on to a headshot of the building kind of long without showing kind of what he was doing. Plus, there's also the other thing of photographing people who are availing themselves of the services of the food bank, may or may not be disposed to being photographed for a
Right.
project. But yeah, you're correct. Holding on to that shot for a long time felt like a hole.
Yeah. And again, that's fair. I know it's tough to have access right now or to take this new sense of normalcy. Like he's basically, the whole theme of his video is this is his new normal. I loved how the video ended, how the text came up that this is my new normal as he said that. I thought that was a really nice touch. Um, I think in general, when you're looking at life before quarantine and life after quarantine, it's a lot more empty spaces. There's a lot more of scenic shots. It's a lot more thinking about how to visualize, what we're experiencing and be able to connect that to what we're feeling, which I know I'm struggling with too. It's been a really tough challenge for everybody, just regardless of if you're a photojournalist, a storyteller, what have you. It's just really hard to feel like you're being surrounded by all these visually appealing things or you're being stimulated in all these different ways. So I do think that Kyle, given the circumstances, was really able to tell a really great story of his experience. I mean, I love that he was able to, see his neighbor, the birthday celebrations. I can't tell you how many drive-by birthday parties, food drives, distributions of other kinds or services, church that I've had to photograph. And it's really tough to find visual variety of people in their car, just for a blip of a second coming by. But I think he did a good job of capturing some emotion while that had occurred. And it's nice because it's something that's still unplanned. It still can be something that we consider newsworthy in this time because it's just something that was, going on that he happened to stumble across. So I think that was really cool that he was able to be a part of that. You have details sprinkled throughout every single piece of the overall portfolio. I know I always appreciate that's something I wish I would have did a little bit more in school was to have those be. I know I've had a bunch of people refer to them differently. I like just the other day, my friend calls them commas, just something to kind of let the entire body breathe, the body of work breathe a little bit to give you a pause, a little break from seeing people or seeing scenes, just kind of have like a connecting detail that just kind of ties in what's been going on and have that fluidity. So I think Kyle, you definitely are seeing that in the ways that he's shooting close-ups of the food from these food drives. I think I would have liked to see that a little bit more, like in the Quidditch story, for example, to have more details, to have more things to break up just Quidditch shot after Quidditch shot after Quidditch shot. And that's, I think, like I've never photographed Quidditch before, so I can't put myself in his shoes and know exactly what kinds of shots would be, really available to you in that scene. But I think again, you did a good job of being able to go away from the sport. You've got the team, the photo of the team, all huddled up, which I think is important. I think a lot of the times we think with sports, it just has to be sports action. I know I'm not the best sports photographer, but I know that the featurey moments, the community side of a sporting event is just as important as the action itself. So that's something to just keep in mind in general. And Kyle, he is great at shooting sports, and that's something that he works really hard on. And you can see that he's seeing all the different kinds of sports action photos, tight shots, detail shots, action shots. And so I think to have that balance of, what he was able to cover during his time still on campus, and then to kind of see that transition of what it's like now that he's home and going through his own visual process. I really get that out of his portfolio. It starts really energetic. It starts with a lot of people, a lot of scenes, a lot of chaos, and then it kind of trails off into this empty, isolated feeling, which I think is really successful in that sense. So
Absolutely agree with all that. The observations and that I'll make about Kyle's growth naturally his real his inclinations are those of a very highly disciplined photographer, um, and he does well with it. Just trying to make some selections of where we're seeing. He's just a really good, clean, technically strong photographer. But where I see the growth is, the maybe more organic, where moment driven, layered, maybe even slightly chaotic, images that really speak to people. Really good at capturing moments, and again, all of his images are, as you would expect with a good sports photographer, very, very moment driven. And this is where, really kind of pressing into as he continues to develop as a photographer. And of course, he's easily one of the best sports photographers that I've worked with, of many good sports photographers at Ball State.
better than I was as a student because I hardly shot sports to begin with. So he's already got the upper hand, I think, with covering the bounty of sports that he has, which is always important. Got a time over, I guess, a little bit longer since we're not actively shooting any sports right now. But yeah, I think overall, I think he did a really excellent job of executing the intentions of every single assignment. Like you said, he's a very disciplined photographer. The video I think was really successful, so I would say, if anything, that was probably my favorite. I think I enjoyed that the most out of everything. But yeah, really good stuff, Kyle.
Okay, next, Michael.
Okay.
Michael has. I'm using 6-second durations on this because of WebEx. I was
Okay.
trying 3-second durations, and I was hearing from people that they were like missing pictures. So
Yeah, the timing has been good. It's been helpful. I like the 6 seconds.
and I don't know that he has. Let me make sure. I don't know that he has. I'm not seeing a video, so.
Okay. All right. So Michael's stuff, I really enjoy. I think out of everything, there's a couple pictures that jump out at me. The first piece of this black and white series, I don't know if it's musical event or concert, but I really dig the second frame that you're about to come up on within that, just because I love the chaos, I love the emotion. Like I feel like I'm there. You're really putting me in a scene. You're putting me in a moment. I think I especially just appreciate that no one's minding that you're there. You know, you're just getting a very organic and raw moment, which is always important, and not, to just draw away everybody's attention to the fact that you're there. It's a very wallflower photo. So I really like this one, and then the one, I don't know if it's right after this one or maybe it's this fourth image in this series. It's the band playing, I think. Yeah, so it would be the one after this. I don't know. I think it's just this gives me just so many vibes. I feel like it's just a very, very nice, clean moment. The black and white itself, like it doesn't, I don't know if you used a flash or not, but I just really like this almost just added layer of light that's even within this black and white moment. I feel like there's this vibrance to this image, and so I think just technically this is like one of the best images that you have out of the whole portfolio. So I just wanted to touch on that. I just love, again, you really get everybody's personalities in this image. I love everybody's hair. You can really see just, again, they're working hard, they're playing music. It's just a very, again, another raw, organic moment. So I do really enjoy both of those photos, especially, and I think that that's something to keep in mind that you can apply kind of in future scenes, because I feel like a couple of your pictures in this portfolio are moments within moments. You know, you could have found a way to get a little bit more intimate with the scene, or bring me closer to the people that are a part of these moments. You know, especially again when you're working within like a scene like this, you're in the same room. You know, really trying to get really, really super close or really, really super wide, or finding a way to kind of have some visual variety there. I think you know, will help strengthen, you know, even when you are just shooting something that's in the same scene of the same people, to find a way to find a unique way of expressing that. I love also the photo of the dude playing, I guess it's video games in his bedroom. Um, I think that photo is executed very well. And I think again, it speaks to this theme of isolation, this theme of just kind of, it still gives me college vibes. I don't know if this is while you're still on campus or if this is a friend or roommate or what have you, what's going on in the picture. But I love this whole scene. I think it was, you know, an intentional, I don't know, again, the photo itself, you know, you've got the mirror, you've got his reflection kind of bouncing off of that. The light pouring in from the window, you know, you just, everything is kind of just laid out as it is. You know, you see his bedroom. I get to see a lot of who he is. It's a very good environmental image to me. Um, so I'd like to see more stuff like this. I think where you're really getting intimate enough with somebody to give, you know, your viewer, your audience, an insight as to maybe what's going on in the picture, what's happening, what the scene is trying to paint, what picture it's trying to paint. Um, so stuff like this, I think, is more successful than like, you know, before, yeah, backing out, you know, like just wider shots of, you know, people who are kind of in the frame, but they're not actively doing anything. They're not really a part of the story as a whole of whatever is going on, you know. I think again, protest things that are shot just with a mass group of people, it's always important to take the photos that you did turn in, you know, these overall shots of this entire group of people and then them marching or walking or protesting, whatever you have. But then find those scenes within this scene itself. Is there one person that you can channel into that's making a really important expression, or one person that has, you know, a really great sign that really helps add some context that you wouldn't get just from seeing everybody's signs and everybody as a group as a whole. So kind of similar context of just how you can back away further, how you can get even closer in order to get a little bit more visual variety. I know Martin loves cropping. So yeah, it's but stuff like that again, playing whether you're doing that in camera, you know, in the viewfinder, if you're in post and you're going back and saying, look, you know, I like what's going on here, but I want to get to this sooner. And it might not work as well, depending again, technically, if that photo is a little out of focus or something, you might just have to make do with what you've got. Um, but yeah, that's the best I think thing is, especially that's why it's important, you know, in terms of a portfolio, you have this stuff to look back on to mark your growth. But then how you can kick it up a notch for next time. So the next time you go and cover a protest, the next time you go cover like a mass group of people, how can you find better imagery, like the other stuff that I point out that really kind of speaks to that tone. But as far as like the last little bits of this portfolio, I love the tones. The colors are great. Like the photo of Bracken, I love the light. The colors, it's really nice. I know orange and blue are complementary colors, so that was giving me all these great vibes. I really like your tonality and your theme, your color theme. That seems like you've carried throughout. Because again, it's really hard, you know, if you're just taking a photo of something and there's not a person or really a center of interest, then having color kind of be that theme that carries you through these images is a really nice touch. To still kind of have some sense of creativity with it, some sense of storytelling, but also just kind of being able to be creative. So I think some of those shots are done really well. I mean, building shots again are tough and they're not really fun, and we all have to do them. Um, and unless even, you know, like someone like me who might have a drone license and who can maybe get like a different vantage point, again, you're kind of having to work with how to make architecture look aesthetically pleasing, which I think Michael has done fairly well, finding the details and finding these little, you know, these little pockets of not just the fact that it's a building, but a building with this quote on it, or a building that is the same color as the sky, or like this other photo, the green and white striped whatever you call it, you know, hut
Awning.
photo. Thank you, awning. Again, the colors here with, you know, just makes me feel like this was a more intentional image than just pointing at your camera, you know, at a window or at a wall or something and then just taking a shot. So if you don't have people to work with, if you don't have a scene to work with, trying to, yeah, to find color, to find light, to use those things to kind of drive an image, I think is something that Michael is definitely developing a sense of um a theme for. So I think that those are kind of the main things I think that I can speak to. But yeah, again, just kind of taking again those stronger photos within this overall portfolio and channeling that in the future, I think will help make him really successful and kind of continue to train his eye to see color, to see moments, to see light, and kind of keep playing and putting all these things together in photos.
He is really good at organizing chaos.
Mhm.
And this is okay. This is just great.
Mhm.
This doesn't look like it was shot by the same photographer.
Right.
But this, again, back to the good stuff again. So I was struggling with this banner with all the signatures. I think had some meaning, but again, it's interrupted by this presence. Again, do just standing. Is there another way to problem solve this?
Right, like this
Again,
could be a detail image, you can find that picture within a picture and look for, a specific thing that's been written or a specific theme that you might be able to find just with looking at this. Remove that human element and make this a really great transitional image, a really great detail image that you can use to help tie in the rest of the scenes together. Yeah, I would agree with that.
you see the growth though, again, from
Mhm.
beginning of the semester to the end of the semester. I often share with them that I feel like he's channeling Rich Facun in some of these images. You were there for the Rich Facun visit, right?
I think so.
Yeah. He's very similar style to Rich, and I think maybe Ray Gaiman, in terms of his the expressive nature of his visioning, his art. So
Mhm.
um, again, beautiful work, a lot of growth.
Yeah, very well done.
Michaela is next. Michaela Kelly. Oh, come back here. All right.
You have two Michaelas, okay.
Yeah. Michaela Kelly and Michaela Yo. I was mispronouncing her name for at least 3 years. It's not Yohi, it's Yo. So she's got two videos here. I don't know if that's I guess through the same. I guess we'll watch both. Let's go through the images first. Hey. Number one first.
Okay.
You know what? You gotta unplug my earphones. I think she just has natural sound on this. I mean, not natural sound, but royalty-free music. So let's go ahead. Okay, that is it.
Okay. I feel like this portfolio, out of all of the ones I've seen so far, has shown me the most growth, I would say, just in terms of looking at this first project of this this organization, handing out food. I feel like it was a really great story, and again, since I've been out of Muncie now for a few years, that was not something that was going on when I was a student there, and so that's, I think, something really unique to find that not everybody covers or jumps on the chance to be able to cover. So I think putting yourself in that scene was really important. But just looking at the imagery of what you captured in that one night, or if you did go back multiple nights, it's hard to tell. Um, Fast forwarding to where you're home now and experiencing this new normal in your life in quarantine, I'm really getting a sense of your eye as a photographer, your storytelling abilities. I feel like that shines through so much more, just in these few images of you with your nieces and nephews. So I think in general, just for Michaela to know, I mean, there's definitely growth evident just in the portfolio itself, which I'm sure Martin can attest to in some ways. But yeah, just really like these quarantine images. I think the potty training photo is brilliant. Um, it's again, it's helpful. This is your own family, so you have this access, you have this intimacy that you can kind of channel through your photography, but you're able to do it really well. And so I'm hoping that you're continuing to document this experience because it is such a drastic shift from being a college student to worrying about yourself to now being held accountable to help take care of your family and your sister's kids. So that's a huge responsibility. And I would love to see this continue. I think if that's something that you're not already doing, I definitely encourage Michaela to continue to document that and what that looks like. And I mean, I guess the one critique I would have again is similarly to Brittany's portfolio was the same scene that's kind of going on at the same table. I think that the most successful image, in that series of three is that second one of all the kids on their e-learning. Um, I think that one, works just by itself, and then again, try to get the kids in another aspect of life, going to bed or getting ready for bed or getting ready for the morning or eating or whatever it is, just to have some kind of different scene that's not just them all sitting around at the table. I think it's kind of where you were going with that image before it, with one of your nieces sitting at the table, kind of cross-eyed with whoever's in the background, whether it's your sister or somebody prepping food. Like that's something that I'd rather see, just the difference. And maybe you are mostly concentrated in this kitchen space, but just the ways that you can see those things differently. So the details are good. I really like the shoes on the stair on the back patio porch or whatever. The light's really nice. Um, you found a really good way to kind of see light, see a detail. Um, so yeah, I think that your personal project in isolation, I think, is the most successful out of all of these images. So it really takes me through a journey, which I really appreciate. As far as the other two pieces that you submit, I think again, it's one of those things like I can tell that you're trying to see things in a unique way. Like with this gentleman that you followed, and his different aspects of life, playing music or at church or doing whatever it is that he's doing. I think I really like where you're going with all these things, but like this image in particular, if you want to go back to the one with the cross, is kind of somewhat framing the photo, like even if you just had moved yourself over just a little bit more to really get this scope of, here's this cross and I'm going to make this fill the frame and make this shape, and then kind of find that moment within that, that lower bottom left third or something. So again, it's like you're keying into training your eye to see things differently, which is really important. But just again, being able to just take it to the next level would make that even more successful. So I see where you're going with it. I appreciate the framing. And again, if you're in the same room, it's really hard to find different angles and different places to be to photograph somebody doing something pretty redundant. So that's just something to keep in mind, I would say. But I'm appreciating the intimacy I think that you're trying to accomplish and the stories that you're trying to find and capture. I think that that's something really important that I believe is evident. You don't just show up to your local college event and just snap some photos. You've actually gone out into the community to find characters, to find stories. Um, so yeah, I think overall, I think in that sense, the storytelling aspect of the work that you've considered as a whole is really successful. I just think it's a matter, again, like most people, especially myself in college, just being able to look at this work now and know that you can do better and that you can find more intimate photos to take. You can really challenge yourself to not just look at a scene and start taking photos, but to really take your time and be intentional in order to really be able to successfully tie in the story that's already strong and already, somewhat evident in your photos, but to really be able to blend those two things together. And the videos, I think do that. I know that my final project for this class had too much text in my videos, and I would say that that might have been a similar situation for Michaela. Great information. I know that it's hard to kind of narrow it down to maybe a sentence or two, but that's really all you need. because again, the photo should be able to kind of tell to supplement, that context in terms of, okay, so just give me the basic who, what, when, where in a sentence or two, and then let the photos do the rest. So I think that would be my only critique on those videos. But I know the personal isolation video, your quarantine video, again, it's I think equally important to have words with the visuals. So I don't know if that necessarily the same rule applies. I think Martin could probably weigh in on that a little bit. But yeah, overall, I think again, like the growth is evident, and I think that that's the most important part. That and your ability to really be able to tell stories is those are both there. So definitely keep pushing yourself. I think that you'll get there for sure.
I totally concur with all that. Yeah, I was dissertation length title slides that we were seeing were yeah, just one or two short sentences. And I've done this too before. I've had some kind of wordy. I've been known to be wordy on occasion, a little bit pedantic, and go on and on and on. Problems finding the period. I know that Rebecca's there laughing. But yeah, I've done some fairly long title slides too, and sometimes regret it. So, so yeah, it's I would what I did think was really effective is when you added the including myself here. I thought that was fairly good. But then again, you get back into those old habits when the wordy slides coming up toward the end. So, but this was again, I love your seeing the things that I think are really, little girl making the face at the table. I did like this shot because it looked so different, and it was a little bit of the organic, it was a little bit of a spontaneous and authentic moment. Really good scene setter. That one actually was speaking to me. Wrestling with the light here a little bit. But and again, I like your approach, and again, consistently, such a hard worker. So so thank you. I just thank you for being part of this class and being around with us. Okay, let's keep rocking because we're making headway here.
Yeah, just a few more, right?
Just a few more.
Okay.
Michaela, different spelling, in fact, different name, is next. Michaela Yo.
Perfect.
And
Cat on a leash. Yes.
And I think this was her photo column too. Did she? There are no captions there. Column, which doesn't look like she shared. Doesn't look like anybody shared text with us, but her photo column kind of followed a theme of the Kubler-Ross stages of loss: bargaining, depression, acceptance. I'm missing some of them, but anyway, let's go to the video. Oops. I think it's just royalty-free music on this, so.
Okay.
As a graduating college senior and an essential restaurant worker, a mask has become a part of my uniform, and health check-ins before I can clock in have become essential too. My couch has become my new desk, and drive-thrus have become so important for food or even my medicine. I've lost my college graduation, and I've coped with it by making art. But I've found happiness too in taking my cats outside for walks and enjoying the park, 6 feet apart, of course, and the small signs that the world is still moving, even if it feels like it's not.
Were you able to hear all that?
Yes.
Great. Again, her photo column, the writing in her photo column and the text, the copy blocks that she was writing for her photo column, I wish you could see them because they totally were wow to me. I'll let you go first.
Okay. I think just and looking at this portfolio, I know this gives me insight as to I think the things that Michaela gravitated towards covering, which were more, large group events, things that, might be a little bit more challenging actually to cover because it is just very chaotic. There's just a lot of people, a lot of different moving parts. And I think I appreciate those kinds of things being covered, especially, in college. It just helps immerse us with our campus culture, and with the community. I do think that there's a bit of redundancy, especially in this take, in terms of the same kinds of scenes that I'm seeing of people, yeah, laughing and kind of smiling. And it gives me insight as to, the mood of the room. And I think, again, it's just one of those things that you want to pick the strongest photo that's going to really, like this to me, like that intimate moment of people, um, really having a reaction, really having an emotion versus just, people kind of in their seats and reacting. Because that's something I think, especially in a crowd setting, you're always going to find, and those necessarily aren't hard photographs to capture. So to really, again, sit with one person that might be, really overjoyed or really sad, or find that one thing that you can just kind of focus on and make a scene out of that. Like I can see that's what you were doing in that last image, of the girls hugging. That to me stands out of all of those images the most. Um, you've got the overall covered, you've got a couple actually that are kind of more overall scene setters. Again, maybe just pick one, in terms of like, the photo where you're in the very, very back of that room where you can see the food and then the line of people and then the speaker. That gives me more of like a leading line to what might be going on versus just, again, like in the corner taking a picture. You don't really get much of the speaker because he's barely in the frame. And yeah, cropping in a little bit just to, again, really help get that center of focus, getting me to the speaker, this character, this focus on whoever it is that you're covering. I think, in terms of, yeah, just challenging yourself to get closer, and take a couple frames of something and then move on. Or like that second image, we've got a crop. Yeah, see, like that's the moment, and I kind of could see it again, like we've trained as photographers to kind of be able to read an image. Like that's where my eye wants to go, but I'm too far away from that. And so if I were you, I would have, climbed through the mass of people or been squatting down in that row. And that's kind of the privilege that we have as photographers. We're being invited, we're being asked to document these things. So we don't have to stand quietly in the back or, kind of adhere to the same decorum, that you might be adhering to as a spectator. You get to be weaving in and out, moving around the room. And so that's something I know is intimidating, especially because if it's a quieter thing or if it's a more public thing, you might feel like you're drawing attention to yourself, or that it might not be something you're comfortable with. But that's, again, part of being a photographer, is pushing yourself out of that comfort zone to get into the action, to show people something that they can't see just from their own chairs or their own corner of the room. So that's something I think that Michaela should keep in mind, is when she's covering things, especially when things that do include a lot of people, incorporate a lot of elements, to still challenge yourself to get close, to get in that scene, to get up and personal with people, because that's going to help make better photos. And I like the second image of this beginning of whatever community walkout it might be. I guess the second image in the portfolio. Like, again, you can take this scene. If you got closer, I feel like you would have really, really hinted at those shadows, those really, really distinguished shadows that are being made on the concrete of all these people. And that's a storytelling image right there, to use that shadow, to use that light, to get a little closer, to get me there a little sooner. And it still has that unique element to it of, you're seeing this moment, but you're also playing with the light, you're playing with the shadows. So again, now that you're seeing it and looking back, that's something that you can keep in mind for the future, is how to take a normal scene like this, that, again, everybody can kind of look at with their eye, and use your camera, use your creative brain to make it just a little bit more interesting for people and for your audience. And again, that's something that we take, that just takes constant practice to be able to train your eye, to be able to see people, to see moments, to see light all at the same time. It's a very ongoing process that even I'm learning every day. And so that's something I wanted to point out, I think. And then, yeah, just, again, I think in general, everybody's doing really well with taking what it means to internalize quarantine, to internalize isolation, and then visualize it and conceptualize it. So I do appreciate the video that you made, because it gives me more insight to who you are as an essential worker. And I think that imagery, it's important, because, again, if you're going to work, like Martin was saying earlier with Kyle's portfolio, like if you're wearing your mask, I think that detail of the mask sitting in your car, in a car seat, that's a great detail. And I think that should be kept in there. But then additionally, where's you wearing the mask? Where's a portrait of maybe you or your coworkers wearing a mask? What makes what you're doing at work different, so that I can see that? So it's not just, again, these generic images that contribute to this conversation that we're having. Again, it's like a building shot. It's anything else. Like, it's essential, it's part of the story, but how can you supplement it with a really intimate view of what you're going through, what you're experiencing? So I think that those are my main points that I would like to make, I think, on this portfolio. So I don't know, Martin, what you'd like to add.
I would concur with that. I love this picture. This is where, Michaela allowed herself to be, more part of the story. And I love the whimsy and the fun of this. And I'd like to have seen more than that, more of that, rather. And again, we're talking about, getting in, moving toward the action, not being so pulled back. But, this actually would have held up. I was kind of hoping we'd recrop that, maybe a little bit of unsharp mask and more toning to it. And then, I mean, wow, this picture's kick ass.
A different picture, right?
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of introverts and a lot of shy people that are, for whatever reason, gravitate to photojournalism, and they find my classes absolutely purgatorial in terms of just put yourself into the crowds. You're like, you're out of your mind.
That's fair.
Yeah, well, that is fair. But
Gotta do it.
yeah, you do have to do it. So again, and I wish you could have seen her writing. My God, her writing is just so amazing, and her thinking is so spot on. And it comes down, actually, her words. When we get to the video, you get to hear her think and how purposeful she is.
I think that's something that for Michaela to channel. You know, if the words and that kind of articulation as an artist can come so fluidly, how can you build yourself up to kind of have that same frame of mind when you're actually taking photos as well? So if your words are something that you want to be doing first, or how you can kind of make a process that works for you and that's going to equally hold up, you know, in terms of the words that you're generating, and then as well having the pictures to complement how strongly you are able to articulate and tell stories. I think that that's a really important skill. But yeah, I'd like to see it more, I think, in your photos. So
Hell, yes, absolutely. um, Love hearing Michaela think, and again, another one that we had to say goodbye to yesterday at the virtual graduation. We're gonna miss you. So fair winds and
yeah.
fair winds and following seas, as we like to say on the coast. Rebecca, we have talked to. Rebecca's still here.
As I say, she's
Yeah, no, I'm here. I've been listening. I've been watching the whole thing. I just had the camera off because I'm moving around.
Yeah, she's like a voyeur. I like that though. That's
Sarah's next. Okay.
yeah. Sarah Jensen.
You really have had a cat or a dog, I think, in every portfolio.
We will allow that this year. There is an MP4 which has moving pictures, and I say let's play it.
Let's do it.
All right. We'll keep the happy birds going in the background. Cardinal here somewhere.
I love it.
Here again, we hear from Ben Sound. Hello,
I
Ben.
discovered YouTube has royalty-free music too, actually, and they have a great, huge library. So if beat sound gets old, you know, look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, we should start pulling ideas and resources for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know royalty-free music is really tough, but I've been using YouTube a lot lately. Or I know, again, when you start working for organizations and publications, they might have their own royalty-free or music options, which is always great. But yeah, Bensound was what I used in college too, and then I discovered YouTube. Um, okay, so this is yeah. Um, so I think that the first few things I wanted to mention were some, some kudos. Like I think my favorite moments that you're seeing here, are actually the pictures that maybe don't have the human element in the focus, like the photo of the road, this empty road. It's got this mood to it. I really like you're seeing there. Again, sometimes moments are still, we can still interpret a moment even when there's not an actual, person or human interest at the focal point. And so I think that this is something that kind of speaks to the volume of that which you can still convey a mood and a tone without really having a person to drive that emotion, to drive that context. So I like you're seeing in this photo, and then I think it might be one or two more after this. It's the silhouette photo, Martin, of somebody on the porch potentially. I really liked that the way you were seeing. Again, it kind of gives me this context that you're kind of going out of your comfort zone to shoot in, low light setting, to kind of convey this isolated, moody tone. Um, and I like that, again, you can tell it's late at night. I can see that from the way that the sky is barely lit still, the porch light's on. You can hardly make out what's going on in the image, but that works. It's successful in that way. And so I think even just a slight crop, maybe get rid of a lot of that black space that you have, that negative space, and just kind of bring me in just a little closer. That would have made this image, especially strong. But again, I think that's just, again, you're being able to take what you're working with and make something out of it. So I really appreciate this photo as well. And again, I think everybody for the most part has been really good about seeing details and just how they can communicate the lack of visual opportunity within quarantine, especially when things have gone really quiet. And so a lot of these photos are a little bit more quiet, and you've got this great detail. Again, it just gives me context. At least your grocery store is stocked. That's kind of my first thought was like, oh wow, there's actually milk there. Whereas a lot of people were photographing empty shelves or empty fridges, and you don't have any product there. So that's a little bit different than I guess what everybody else has been doing. And I think in general, something that I will say maybe is more of like a generic statement, because this is something that I got kind of ridiculed on recently in my career, was how easy it is to photograph kids, and how we love to do it because they're easy to photograph, and they're gonna be expressive, and they might even perform for the camera in a way that might even just be a little too extreme. I was gonna say this is the most successful photo that you have out of that series of kids and interactions. I mean, I love the moment. It's a tight moment. It's a quiet moment. The light is great. The exposure is great. The color is great. Everything is great. And then I look at the rest and I just feel like I'm missing that same sentiment of finding a true moment, trying to really focus on a particular individual, or in this case, if it is a lot of kids. You've separated yourself just in taking that one image of that girl, by herself, and then getting the rest of these overalls. But yeah, I really like this picture. I think this is my favorite out of your entire portfolio. I just really think that's a strong image. Um, and I think again, just how you can train your eye to see those things and get closer to things so that the rest of those photos don't blur together like they kind of have for me. They all kind of feel the same. They all kind of feel redundant. Um, so it's like most folks, I think, when we've talked about these crowd shots that you're taking, or these crowded, chaotic scenes, sometimes a photo that is chaotic and really crowded that just kind of has all these layers to it. You have protruding limbs, all that stuff can be successful. And that's only part of, again, like the visual variety that you want to be looking for, in stories. So I think those are my main points. And then I think, again, your video, I like the pacing of it a lot. I think out of all the videos, this one was just really quick and sharp, and just kind of had a few seconds for each frame. You put yourself in the frames. Um, but yeah, I really like how it just really moves between one moment to the next really fluidly. Feels really upbeat. So although again you're kind of speaking to this sense of isolation or what life is like in quarantine, I feel like I find some sense of happiness and joy. I'm still getting a positive emotion. I'm still being put, like you said, it's an outdoor experience, an outdoor quarantine. So I think you did that. You kind of nailed it in that way, if that's kind of what you were going for, focusing on the outdoors during quarantine. Um, and I like that photo of this. I don't know if it's a sibling or a friend of her under the tree. I mean, that gives me an insight to who she is, I think more so than the picture you actually included in your portfolio, which was her posing with the dog. I think that you should have swapped this picture that I'm looking at with that picture. Yeah. So something again to keep in mind, I think a lot of oftentimes we're really attracted to our work for certain reasons, but it's because we're especially close to the subject matter, or potentially the emotion, and so it's really important, I think, just to continue to train your eye to look at what you might deem good or what might spark joy in you, but then also big picture thinking about what really is going to actually get a point across or get context across. But yeah, you've got a couple of really great images in here that I really, really enjoy. Martin, what do you think?
Ditto to all that. I was seeing some pictures within the picture here, kind of looking at the pattern of lights. Actually, I just noticed when I was recropping it, thinking, all right, maybe I want to crop these gawkers, these folks that are looking out, but maybe I kind of like them over there, but maybe there was just a little bit too much of too much in the picture. So, and here again, yeah, the kid pictures. See why you had to do it because it was a kid event. But I would concur that this is just like a nice moment, and this is where you're heading that I think is useful. More like this, please. Pictures of signs. You do like pictures of signs. You can probably back off on that. This is a very useful and telling picture of a sign. Makes perfect sense. If you're really kind of hanging on to the meaning that's conveyed within your picture of a sign, it may or may not be a successful image. Here, I think it is. Here, I think you missed the shot. Nobody cares about that sign. They care about what's going on right here. So yeah, just the picture of a sign doesn't always work. 50 looks good, sure, 50 looks good. Okay, dude, I think 60 looks good if you ask me. I'm just saying. But I agree about that crop. It's something I also saw when I was looking at that. And hello, Kitty. So yeah, again, I like where you're moving. The picture of a sign. So more human connection, less signage, and again, it's these unexpected pictures that you take that winds up. That's that third level that I've talked about with photo editing. The first level is the pictures that you're trying really hard to take, and you turn them in, and there it is. And then there's the other pictures that you take when you're getting. That's the second level. The pictures that you take when you're getting to that, one picture that you turn in that really works. So that's the second level. And then the third picture is the ones that you take impulsively, that your soul is coming out, and you're doing it with your mind's eye, and it's unexpected and unplanned and spontaneous. And that's where the sweet spot right there. You really have the growth. The pictures that are kind of a surprise, and spontaneous and magical. So more of that. Keep doing that. Keep growing. Keep working hard. Keep pushing. You're doing it. Yay. Yay, Sarah. Only Shannon remains.
Okay.
Last but never least, Shannon McCloskey, or as her friends call her, Shannon. Shannon. She's got title slides. Title slides. And she has her photo column narratives too, so we can look at that.
Great.
Okay, and I'm going to send you, hey, Zelda.
Hey, Zelda. Oh my goodness, she's so cute.
Let's see. And I'm going to send you, and if you want to look at, we're going to look at it via WebEx, but I'm also going to send you her alum copy by email. And there it goes. Okay, so
Yeah, I can see that okay.
I am transfixed by the name Indie Bang Bang.
I was thinking that too. I was like,
Where
oh my
does that-
gosh.
Where does that even come from?
I don't know, but I love it. I'm trying to read through all these pretty quickly.
So it's basically she's documenting the community. Sorry, I have to fix this. She's documenting a community, and I guess up there in the region around Indiana Dunes.
It would have been great to have a photo of the dunes. I don't know if that was possible or not, Shannon, but I feel like that would have been
Mhm.
so nice. I've been, I think, to the lake shore, at least some part of the park for the dunes. I love dunes though. I also lived in Michigan for a year, so selfishly, I just
Yeah,
think they're the coolest.
that would have kind of tied it together, maybe
Yeah,
more
I think
rather
so.
than shots of stores and things,
I agree.
things and stores. So, right back to the, or maybe a more environmental picture with him, rather than, I mean, it's good expression, really, it brings him in, but thinking through the lensing and trying maybe bringing in more of the environment or kind of moving him around a little bit. I don't know how much time he had, probably not a lot of time, but, another frame where it put him more in the environment, more of an environmental portrait rather than, you know, tighter portrait or headshot.
Headshot.
So,
I would agree with that. I think that's one thing that could have, I think, helped tell the story and match it with the wording and what's been written in the column is to kind of back out actually and get these folks within their natural environment. I think that kind of supplements either for certain details or building mugs or just storefront shots. I think that's kind of something when we're taking photos, again, we want to be so literal sometimes, but again, if you combine the art of portraiture with the art of just environmental photography in general, again, like making an environmental portrait, it's telling of both, again, the place in which you're trying to provide context for, but having that human element, having that storytelling element of the character that is kind of going to be, um, adding that extra element of, what's going on, who's, the who, what, when, where, and all of that. I think after reading the column again, I like that first set of images now. This definitely makes more sense. But I think there's too many details and not enough. Overall, it's not enough, sense of place photos to really again kind of help me understand what's going on completely. So rather again, if it's a picture of the dunes or if it's just kind of an overall again to help set the scene of of what town I'm looking at or what I'm looking at, so I can kind of pull back and then you can draw me into the community. Like that, that shot is great of that Miller sign. Again, you're getting close with people, which is important. Any kind of portrait you can get of somebody shows their vulnerability, their willingness to be able to share time and share their themselves with you, which is always a really valuable thing that we should never take for granted. But I think, yeah, just working that scene better. Again, I see a person, but I want to know why this person's associated with whatever else you're showing me before and after. And so, yeah, like Martin said, just kind of pulling back. And then kind of opposite with this next story, I guess these are two girls who thrift. You probably could have had a little bit of a tighter edit. I'm loving the details, but it took me a while to really know what was going on. I think having a detail sooner in the frame or sooner in the edit, like that sewing kit picture, if that would have kind of been closer to the beginning of all of these frames, I would have kind of had this context of, okay, so they go to Goodwill and then they thrift and, find things to custom make or to do or whatever it is that they might be doing. So I definitely think that since there's two people, you have moments of them individually, you have moments of them together, you definitely could have picked the best out of each of those scenes to make it a really, really tight edit. Because some of these pictures I don't think work as well for me in terms of them together, them shopping. You could have probably picked just one or two of them shopping, one of this scene of them taking these selfies. I think this one is more successful than like the other one that might be after this one of them cheesing real hard. And I mean, again, it's cute, it's a nice moment, but it's a little bit interrupted for me because you can kind of see the dog, you can kind of see her face. I like that you're trying to fill the frame with it, but I think that the other one is more successful. It gives me more of a natural approach to how these girls kind of this process for them in terms of the final product of their photo shoot or whatever. But yeah, I love this detail right there. I love the light on her face in that moment. This is another good detail. So you're working everything, I think, to the best of your ability. I just think it came down to editing a little bit tighter for that one specifically. And then I think that's kind of the same theme, I think, for this the art exhibition thing. I really like the process in which you're trying to show beginning to end, which I know is in our heads. That's how we tell story. You have a beginning, you have a middle, and you have an end. But then again, you kind of have that same problem of having redundancies. If I'm seeing the same thing over and over, you're not really giving me any new information. So how can you supplement, taking one photo and just having that be on its own, part of the process and then take me to the next part of the process rather than just showing me multiple images of a similar process. If that makes sense. I don't know if I explained that very well, but I think you're doing a really good job of balancing details with intimate portraits or intimate pictures of people and moments. So I think that it's just a balance for you in terms of understanding how those connect to each other to really express an overall story. I think that's something I'm even struggling with now, and after doing this for a couple of years is, narrative, kind of finding ways to actually have your visuals contextually alone, be enough to put this impression of what it is that you're communicating and talking about without overdoing it, without having too many redundancies, making it really concise, really clean, really natural. Those are all things that, again, we're building in this part of your career. So I think you're definitely on the right track. And it sounds like with the wording that you had, with the little bit that I was able to read, that you're able to, explain what's going on in your photos. I think it's just a matter of really conditioning yourself and kind of challenging yourself to just to narrow it down a little bit, I think.
I agree with that. This is one of the things that we were. I thought probably the more effective. I don't know if you feel this way. The more effective of the stories was actually this one, where the thrifted sisters, they go into thrift stores. They do their thrift store thing. They take them home. They work them up. They've got their podcast or whatever they're doing. Their I guess YouTube show, whatever it is. And then this one, to me, that it really was very human centered, and it really came through. It showed the work, it showed the process, showed the relationship, spontaneous moments. This is where I'd like to see you press into, Shannon, in your growth. Less of the posed, less of the static, I see what you were trying to do here. The inadvertent effect of the approach was just a very artifact-driven set of images. More about things than people. You were trying to kind of, as I understand you, really kind of focus on the art, which I think you've done, and you certainly can do, and that's not a bad thing to do. But also, again, I'm missing the people in here, and as much as it is about the art, it's also about the relationship. And anything you can do to speak to that, which is, I will freely grant you, the harder part of that job, the harder part of that task is, especially when you're one of the people involved in the relationship, to document the relationship. It's the harder problem solve. The ones that I think are more successful are the ones that are less driven by the artifact and the thing that you're photographing, and more by the human element. So it's about humans, it's about people. I do like this. This is actually one of your more successful images of a objet d'art, if you will, because of the light and the crafting of the way you did it, right? And there is a human element in there, right? So again, effective. So this, to me, works better than I don't know, that, right? So instead of just having all these together, maybe it's just a really tight shot of the two of these things, right? Like too many, it's maybe feeling a little bit cluttered and static. Maybe it's just the two, or maybe it's two pictures, or three, or four. So all that said, I think you're technically, again, very, very strong. And I see a lot of, and again, I see, I think you've done well, and especially considering, the considerable constraints that we've had that I think have rattled all of us. I think you've done your best, and that's all and you've grown, and that's all I can ask of any student. Other observations?
No, I think you said it pretty well. I mean, I think overall, again, given the circumstance, everybody has really worked with what they've been able to accomplish. And as long as, like you said, as long as there's growth in the process, I mean, it's hard to measure growth in a semester and in a year, and so for everybody to just be able to look back and know that they've gone from, a starting point to another point, it's just going to keep propelling from here. I mean, I can attest to that. I am definitely in a much different circumstance than when I was in college, and so I can attest that growth is everything in this process, and that any amount of
It
growth
doesn't,
is significant.
right. And it doesn't always happen in the same rate and the same pacing for everybody. I mean, you were pretty good when you left, and you got even better, as you moved into other experiences and internships and started kind of working through things on your own. You're nobody grows at a perfect uh, regression line. It's never a straight line ever that I've ever heard of. And everyone, we're seeing consistent themes through all these critiques. Everyone is working on, trying to find more spontaneous moments, more humanistic or human-driven images. Again, storytelling. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And it's that's why this is a 400 level class, and it's so hard. So Shannon and everybody else, you guys kicked ass, especially considering what a bizarre piece of the year this was.
Yeah, I think I could say the same thing. I was excited just because I know I'm in a visual funk. I think everybody's just in a funk in general. So I was really eager to just be able to pull away from what I've been doing and remove myself from the headspace of feeling like I'm trying to, meet a certain standard in the professional world and just kind of go back into the minds of what it means to be a student right now. So I think given the extra, you know, hardship of already, like you said, just being in a 400 level class and really being pushed and challenged that every student, then all the work that I was able to see, you know, keys into who you guys are as storytellers and what you've kind of been able to do with the card you've been dealt. And so I think if anything, you guys are going to look back on this moment and this time in your lives in general and just remember the kind of work that you were able to make in this time, and it can only get better regardless. And so I think that's just something to keep challenging yourself to visually articulate what you guys are experiencing and feeling, especially now that most of you might be graduated or graduating in the, you know, coming years. So, but yeah, and in general, if anybody has any other questions or working on anything, you know, I'd love to see where some of this stuff ends up going. So feel free to send some stuff my way, you know, at any point.
Absolutely. Congratulations to everyone making it through a really tough class. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording now, and 2.5 hours.